You know what's at stake. Don't be fooled, the account is clear. When he appears, your peace disappears. When he disappears, the emptiness becomes an unbearable echo. And you? You come back to yourself, but for how long? He promises, but doesn't deliver. He says he's there, but you spend sleepless nights questioning where he really is. And you hope for the change. Justify each silence. Adapt your days to fill the absence. Nothing changes. The cycle restarts, and the cost only rises. You try to understand what keeps this bond. The answer is simple. You sustain it. Not because you're strong, but because you fear cutting it. Reality is not kind. If you constantly need to fight for attention, you've already lost. If you need to compete with indifference, you understand you're not a priority. Living this way is not living, it's just surviving expectations that never materialize. Today, you realize that the peace you lost is not just about him, it's about you. If you continue on this emotional roller coaster, the fall will be inevitable. You're not trapped, you're just paralyzed by a vicious cycle. Standing still is also a decision. What do you want from now on? The choice is yours. The price you pay is real. You can go back to sleeping, breathing deeply, and prioritizing yourself. But that doesn't come from promises. It comes from action. The truth has already been presented. You feel the weight of the expectation. It is a wound that doesn't heal. Each unanswered message, each ignored time is a cruel reminder that your presence is worth less than it should be. And you swallow your pride and accept it. He claims to be busy, says it's not the right time. And you, what do you do with these words? Try to convince him otherwise, transform empty promises into hopes, as if time were an ally and not a thief. The pattern is drawn. He disappears, reappears, and you adapt, hoping that something will change. Once again, you take a step back because the pain of rejection is easier to bear than the prospect of breaking up. You keep this cycle alive, while deep down, you know he doesn't fight like you do. While you cling to what could be, he lives in what already is. No remorse, no worries. What you feel doesn't matter to someone who doesn't care. Love starts to feel like a burden instead of a shelter. You look around and realize all your friends have different stories, relationships that flourish, but you struggle to keep the plant alive. The difference, they don't settle. They recognize when love turns to pain, and you refuse to see. Every encounter becomes an analysis. You study his expressions, his reactions, as if they were mathematical formulas. What does that smile mean? Was it an invitation or just a mask? Love shouldn't be like this. Distrustful, full of questions, but you remain captive. What if you looked at it differently? What if you stopped fighting for a love that was never reciprocated? The world won't stop because you decided to free yourself. Social media will continue to show others happiness, while you remain trapped in this labyrinth of uncertainties. Reality is raw. Each passing day, you make more and more concessions that lead to resignation. Each message you send is a coin on the altar of a relationship that you finance alone. And him, he watches. And you? The bond persists because you choose not to break it. If you had the courage to stand up, to do what needs to be done, you might look back one day and realize that the time invested was an illusion, a fictional construct that you maintained out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of the unknown. What is so terrifying about walking away from what doesn't serve you? Silence can be deafening, but it brings choices. It brings clarity. An empty space that you could fill with something true, something that is truly worthwhile. Think about the nights you lost, the endless conversations in your own mind, the scenarios you invented where everything is magically resolved. He arrives, apologizes, promises to change, and you believe, you wait, you justify. But life is more than that. Time does not wait. And with every day that you decide to remain in that situation, you give up on yourself. You don't need more promises. You need actions. It's simple. The truth is that love should be light. It should flow naturally, not turn into a daily battle. You deserve a love that doesn't require constant effort, a love that doesn't consume you. Deep down, you know that the choice is yours. What echoes within you? What resonates in every decision? And when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, am I making myself happy? If the answer is no, know that the change starts there. Not in the expectation that the other person will do something, but in the willingness to do it for yourself. The cost is yours. You pay the price every day. Don't wait for the miracle. The miracle is the action. It is the conscious choice to prioritize yourself. And when you finally decide that the cycle needs to end, life will begin to take a new course. You will no longer need to give explanations. You will no longer need to justify your pain. You will simply live. The reality has already been presented. You know there's something deeper, a wound that won't heal. Each of his smiles hides a sea of uncertainties. You feel it, even when everything seems fine. The words spoken become empty echoes, and you ask yourself, what does it all really mean? You try to be the person he wants. You adapt, you mold, you erase yourself. But meanwhile, who are you? You lost yourself in the expectation that he would become what you need. And this deviation from your own self is painful. There is a weight on your back that you carry every day, a burden that increases with each cultivated illusion. You watch your life transform into a stage where you play a role. The script is known, the lines memorized, and yet you wait for an unprecedented scene, an act that brings change. But the plot is repetitive. He enters the scene, makes promises. You cling to every word as if they were anchors that could keep you there. But anchors also sink. And while you juggle to keep things balanced, what's left of you? A reduced version, a shadow of your very essence. You realize that deep down, hope is no longer your friend. It has become a prison, a chain that prevents you from moving forward. The truth is that he doesn't need to understand your concerns. He doesn't need to acknowledge your struggles. His love is inconsistent, a passing breeze, while you are a hurricane of emotions. And you strive to understand, to translate the unspeakable, to make sense of what has none. It's tiring, and the fatigue almost becomes a part of who you are. Every day you wake up and ask yourself, what will I do today to win his attention? This constant pursuit consumes your energy. You wake up, live for him, and night comes again without answers, again without rewards. Empty looks meet. Conversations become monologues on your side while he just listens, distracted. Your feelings are an echo in a space that should be filled with love. What once was lightness has transformed into a heavy dance, one step back and another forward, but always falling into the same trap. You start thinking about giving up, but a thin thread of hope clings to the idea of a better future, a future that only exists if you behave, and so you persist. But have you ever stopped to reflect on the cost of this persistence? Today you are surrounded by memories that aren't worth it. Photos, messages, small moments that consumed your joy. In the meantime, your self-esteem dwindles. You feel less attractive, less worthy, less loved, and that weighs on you. The impact goes beyond the emotional. It touches the physical, the mental health, the ability to see beauty around you. The people around you notice the change. Your friends comment on how distant you seem, and when you hear that, a part of you revolts. You fight against it. You justify yourself. You say it's because of him, the situation. But time passes, and you find yourself trapped between two realities, the one you wish to live and the one you actually live. What happens when you finally decide to look at yourself? The mirror reflects not just a body, but a story of resilience, but also of pain. You realize there's a cycle that needs to be broken. It's not easy, it's terrifying, but you start to understand that sometimes the first step is simply to stop believing that love is synonymous with suffering. When you close your eyes, you feel the weight of freedom. You see the possibilities beyond the shadows he casts on your life. The world outside continues, full of voices, laughter, opportunities. You could contribute with your brightness, but you are stagnated. You need to remember that love is an exchange, not a bargain. The pain of staying in a non-reciprocal bond is a choice. Saying enough is a choice. Looking to the future and allowing yourself to live is a choice. And when that choice presents itself, you realize that silence may be more deafening, but it brings with it a type of peace you've never known. The echo of what has passed transforms into a breath of relief. It's a space where you can rediscover who you really are, where you begin to nurture loves that don't require constant effort, relationships that nourish, not drain. There is incredible power in freeing yourself from invisible chains, a power that can redefine your path. Reality now looms. You no longer need to pay the price for something that adds no value. It's time to act. It's time to prioritize yourself. When you do this, life will do the same. And when you look back, you might see time as an ally, not a thief. Don't wait for change, be the change. Reality has already been presented. You observe, and every detail becomes clearer. Changes are not just external. Something inside you starts to rearrange. That image of love as a battlefield, where you always fight alone, starts to fade. The echo of unlived moments transforms into a melody that only you can hear. As you reflect, you realize that the idealized love is a construction of yours, a fantasy that you fed with hopes. On that silent night, when memories surface, you feel their weight in your breath. Every shared laugh that now leaves you uneasy, every broken promise that becomes a thorn. The reality is that you don't need someone who is simply there to fill a space. You need someone who wants to be there because they truly want to be. And that difference is crucial. Understanding this is like removing a blindfold, an awakening that goes beyond pain. You begin to see yourself whole again, as if various pieces of a puzzle finally fit together. The cycle that seemed endless transforms into a straight line. From this point, you can decide to move forward or remain still. Staying still seems increasingly unsustainable. As you advance, the voices around you become clearer. Friends who have always been by your side, those who noticed your absences, start to come closer again. They bring stories, laughter, and a new perspective, like a lighthouse in the midst of a storm, illuminating a path you had already forgotten. And in the midst of these conversations, you hear a phrase that resonates. Sometimes the best act of love is to love yourself first. It catches you off guard, a mantra that repeats in your mind. What does it mean to love yourself? What does this act entail? It is to accept your own vulnerability. It is to allow yourself to be imperfect in a world that demands perfection. With each passing day, you take conscious steps. You put your desires first. Each choice becomes an affirmation of who you are and what you truly want. As you look into the mirror, the reflection begins to change. That sad and tired look starts to fill with life. You see yourself smiling, perhaps for the first time in a long time, without wanting to please anyone but yourself. However, the path is not linear. There are difficult days, moments of doubt and temptation to retreat. When nostalgia strikes, you remember the reasons why you decided to pull away, the empty promises that deep down never represented true love. What you wanted was something deeper, something worthwhile. And when those memories arise, you face them, no longer as a prisoner, but as a warrior. Every negative thought that tries to infiltrate your mind is confronted. You repeat to yourself that you do not need external validation, that your happiness does not depend on someone who does not have the same willingness to fight by your side. Time passes and you find yourself surrounded by new possibilities, new encounters, new stories. In every conversation, you allow yourself to be authentic. And this authenticity attracts people who are also willing to love without reservations. Love should not be a burden, it should flow. In one of these new encounters, an unexpected connection arises. An easy conversation, a look that says more than words could express. But now you are alert. You don't cling. You appreciate lightness, but at the same time, you maintain your boundaries. Sometimes you are surprised to discover that love can be fun, light, something that doesn't demand constant proof, and so you learn to recognize the signs. To distinguish between real promises and empty words, you realize that you no longer need to juggle things to impress someone. You are enough just by being who you are. What once seemed like an abyss now transforms into a bridge. You start to laugh more, to dance, to live. Every step out of the sphere of pain is a celebration. The freedom you have begun to seek is not just about being alone, but about being fully with yourself, as you never were before. Every new experience becomes a reminder that you are capable of loving genuinely and of being loved, without fears, without insecurities. You recognize yourself in a new space where expectations will not dictate your worth. You don't need someone to validate your presence. The truth is, you already are enough, and every new morning upon waking you breathe a sigh of relief. You no longer need to count the days of waiting. You no longer need to wonder what could have been. You allow yourself to dream, but now your dreams are different. They are about you, about your life, about what truly matters. Reality now asserts itself. You know indeed that there is no return to what doesn't serve you. The past loses its power. The change is within you, and part of this change involves letting go of what no longer makes sense, of what doesn't bring joy. You continue to walk, free of invisible chains. And when you look back into the shadows of the past, You will see how brightly the light of your new life shines, because the choice was yours. You decided to prioritize yourself, and life transforms when you take the reins.